Let's face it, being in our 20s is one of the most confusing times. What is my purpose? What makes me happy? How will I achieve my dreams? Some of us spend our entire lives trying to figure it out. Yeah, it's not easy, but there's always a way. My way. I'm Jazzy, and I'm in the process of paving my own path in this journey we call life. Will you share your My Way with me?
Hi, this is David Choi, and this is My Way, where we talk about my life as a YouTuber and what I'm working on now.
Hi, David. It's a pleasure to have you on My Way with Jazzy.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to do this.
Welcome to the show.
Yeah.
Where are you right now? I love the background you have going on.
I am at the Takko office.
Mm.
Yeah, Takko, for creators.
Nice. We're going to talk about that more later, but let's start off with talking about how you're really doing these days. Right now with the political climate, public health, economy, etc. Everything's a little crazy, so I really want to know how you're doing.
I'm doing okay. I think like with everybody else, it's very, uncertain times, and even with the election, with Biden having been elected, there's a lot of people who don't believe that he was elected. And so these types of moments have kind of already happened in history. And I think the only thing you can really do is just try to continue to live your life and not let it really affect your life too much. But, sometimes it's hard. It's easier said than done. But I think that I'm a realistic optimist. And so I do believe that things will get better. Things always do get better because there are good people out there who are fighting for what's good.
And I think one thing with this administration is that more young people are actually opening their eyes and ears to politics now. And it's amazing that before it was kind of like in the back of our heads, it was like something for the older crowd, but it really affects our daily lives directly.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think, the difficult thing for me is that, I got the mail-in ballot, and this is like one of the first times I've ever really actually filled it out.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say that, even for me, like there were some things in there I didn't really know how to answer. And if we think about, people who are much younger who are getting these ballots, they probably wouldn't know how it actually directly affects them, or if it doesn't affect them, or if it affects their parents. And so there's a big gap of like education and understanding what's really going on. But I think most people understand from a high level of what's going on in politics, but to get to the granular sort of like actual details of all the laws that people are like the government's trying to pass, that's the part that's even for me a little bit difficult to understand. I do have some concern about that, just with the way that our country is running things. So I don't know what the solution is. Maybe make things a little more simpler, or maybe have some visual aids or videos. Maybe that.
Yeah. I
don't know. Maybe that'll change in the future.
Yeah, it is a little outdated right now in this country. But with everything that's going on, I'm super excited to listen to David's Way, and you're definitely going to bring a bright light to my weekend and everyone's weekend.
I'll try to be positive here.
So I want to spice things up a bit. Typical interview, and I know you've done many throughout your career. Usually the host would introduce you and all of the amazing accomplishments that you've achieved. But today, I want to give you the floor to celebrate yourself. Yeah.
I'm like the worst at doing that, but I can give a little history of kind of like, I guess, the highlights of my life. So back in 2005, I was signed to Warner Chappell Music, a big music publishing company, and I was able to land that gig because I submitted some music to this music publisher company and music publishing company, and they selected me to enter this workshop. And then from there, I got in touch with the VP, senior VP of publishing, and she was like, David, I want to sign you. And 2005, I got signed as a writer producer. I was there for 2 years.
Real quick, how old are you then?
I was 19.
Wow, straight out of high school.
Well, I mean, there's a little bit of time in between, but yeah.
Uh-huh.
But so I got signed, and then during the second year of being at Warner Chappell, I stumbled upon YouTube. And YouTube was a platform that I was able to use to put my music out and get feedback, instant feedback from people from all over the world. And that's kind of what got me started on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to be a singer, actually. I wanted to be a writer producer. I was a very shy kid growing up. Even in high school, I didn't have very many friends, and I couldn't talk to people. I wasn't social at all. I was socially awkward, actually. And YouTube was a place for me that it didn't feel like I was actually broadcasting anything in front of people. I thought it was just kind of like people on the computer, like in the computer world, like on the internet. It didn't seem like real people. So I had no reason to be shy. So I put it out and I would get instant feedback, like I said. And then things kind of grew from there. 2009 is when I did my first show. And then from there, I decided to just continue down that path of being David Choi, the artist. And then, I met a lot of amazing people, played many shows, hundreds, maybe even 1,000 shows. And I just kind of, really lived a fortunate life as a full-time creative. A lot of work, a lot of work in between, but I was able to do that. And then, now I'm in the tech world, and that's my new thing now. So that's kind of like a very quick fast forward version of my life.
Yeah, David, let's give you a round of applause. Pound the back. Give yourself a pound on the back. I'm so proud of you as a fellow Korean American. You've represented us in such a positive light, and it was amazing that you were one of the pioneers really on YouTube, and you just opened up so many opportunities for other Asian Americans too. So I'm very proud. Good job, David.
I remember, even in my early YouTube years, people saying things like that, like, hey, you're an early pioneer, or you're, you've done a lot for the community. And to be honest, like, I don't know if I personally felt that way at the time, because I was just really just doing what I really enjoyed doing. And I wanted to become really good at my craft. And that was always a journey that I was on, and just trying to figure out, like, what is the right path. I didn't really know, because there was no one doing it at the time that I could kind of look up to or follow in the footsteps of that were Asian American. And so I guess that's the part that makes you like a pioneer. But honestly, I think a lot of us, we didn't really know exactly what we were doing. We were just trying to make it work for us. And I think that applies to probably anyone trying to go on any sort of, journey in their creative sort of, passions and whatnot. You just kind of have to figure it out as you go along.
Well, here on the show, we celebrate pioneers like you who are trailblazers in their respective industries. But we also want to get to understand your story on a deeper level, because we all know that the journey to any type of achievement comes with the inevitable blood, sweat, and tears, with a sprinkle of confusion along the way. So let's take it back. You had said that you didn't really enjoy learning piano and violin when you were younger. And so I'm curious to know then why and how you decided to pursue a career in music, moreover as an artist.
I was forced to play violin and piano because I'm Korean. I hated it. It was really the fact that you had to practice music and kind of like perfect it, it was a piece, it was a song that you didn't write yourself. And I guess at the time I didn't really enjoy it, because it was just there all the time. Like, my parents, they operated a music store, So I had music growing up. Like I saw music everywhere, my entire life.
Mm.
My dad would sing all the time and play his, instruments. And in fact, as a kid, I was annoyed by it. I was like, stop singing. It's so annoying. It's so loud. And when I look back on it now, I'm like, well, my dad was actually extremely talented, an amazing singer actually. And it was, I didn't really understand that as a kid, when you don't understand these things until much later in life. And so, yeah, I hated doing that stuff until, 16 is when I discovered songwriting and producing. And that's when I sort of was like, oh, wait, I didn't know you can kind of create your own music. You don't have to practice music that's from someone else. And so that's kind of what sparked the interest in music, in my life, despite the fact that I was surrounded by it my entire life. So I think that creative sort of bug that I caught, that's what I was really excited about.
And how did you exactly get into songwriting?
When I was 16, I was in my history class, and Mr. Roy was his name. And this kid, he brought in a CD and he played it for the class, and it was like this techno music back then. And he was telling he was telling everybody like, oh, I made this. And in my mind, in that moment, I was like, wow, you can actually create music? Because in my mind, I was always making melodies. I didn't know that was songwriting. I didn't know that was creating. And I was like, oh, I think I can do that. And so I went home that day and took out a keyboard, and I just started, composing. I actually wrote it on the notes and everything. And that's kind of what started it. And then I just became obsessed. Before that, I was obsessed with playing video games and StarCraft and Counter-Strike. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had really no passion except for just hanging out with my friends and playing video games or skateboarding. And after that, I was just hooked. I just became obsessed. I was spending all of my hours writing and learning about the industry and the business and the craft of it, reading books. I started taking college courses in music industry in high school. I just became obsessed. I don't know. It's something that just turned on, and I couldn't stop.
Wow, in high school you were taking college courses for music. You really fell in love with it.
Yeah, I really wanted to make it. When I started doing it, I think I don't remember the exact order, but I just remember being really into the music side of it and then creating. And then at a certain point in my mind, I think I kept hearing the phrases of starving musicians. You hear those phrases, and I was like, wow, if I'm going to do this, I don't want to be a starving musician. I want to make it. I want to be, do the creative thing and make a living doing it. And I mean, that phrase still exists. There's a lot of creative people out there that really struggle. And, I always try to be available for any musicians that need advice from me. And at the end of the day, it's how bad do you want it? I know I'm kind of going off topic a little bit, but, and I really wanted it very badly. Like I said, obsessed is the right word.
Did you apply to colleges for music?
Yeah, so I did community college, and then I got my general education done. I actually missed I was going to go to a Cal State school, and then I missed the sign up date. So I was like, oh, screw it, I'm just going to do this thing. And I was more, thinking about the music more than anything else. And then I was on my way to transfer over to USC for music business. That's when I got signed. So I was like, do I want to go to USC or do I want to, take this job? And so I took the job because it's a once in a lifetime opportunity to get offered that sort of deal. You can graduate from anywhere and still not get signed to a publishing company. I don't regret making that decision. I do sometimes think about, oh, do I want to go back to college and get a degree? And, sometimes I do. I think about that a lot because I love learning. I'm a huge fan of just gaining knowledge wherever I can. And I read a lot of books and things like that now, but But yeah, I do think about it sometimes. Maybe it's like the Korean thing in me, like, hey, you should
Mhm.
probably go get your degree at least, right? Your bachelor's degree. So, um, yeah, I think about it once in a while.
Going off of that, these days as technology is advancing and now with this global pandemic, we're seeing more young people forgoing that traditional college education and replacing it with learning their own skills online or going full out content creator mode. I would love to hear your thoughts on this, as you seem to be ahead of your time in this aspect.
Man, I think I've seen enough stories of friends and just people out there who get a degree in something and they never use it. And on one side, I'm like, okay, maybe if you don't know what you're doing, I think college is a great, sort of path to take. But if you know exactly what you want to do, and this is the risk, right? I took that risk. I knew what I was signing myself up for. I think that's why I was so driven to prove that I can do it to my parents, especially. Because I remember as a kid, I was telling I always told my parents, I'm going to be a doctor and a lawyer. You know, I read an article actually recently about a guy who's like a doctor, lawyer, astronaut, like marine.
Yeah.
That guy. I was telling my parents I'm going to be like that, and look where I ended up. Right, I'm a musician. I turned into a musician, and for me, I took that chance, and I was uh, extremely determined to make a living doing music, and I wasn't going to let anybody stop me. That was the biggest thing. I didn't care what anyone thought. I was like, I'm just going to make it, whether you support me or not. If you don't, I'm gonna make it. And so that's the kind of personality I have. When I set my mind to something, I'm gonna do it. I don't let anything get in my way. And so if young people have that sort of mentality, I think they'll be okay. You know, because I like I said, I hear so many stories of people who don't um, do what they studied, right? And it does help to get a job. That's definitely important, but it's not the only option that's available in life to succeed. Um, so I would say to get your high school diploma at the least. I've seen so many different stories of different paths people take that lead to success. And so I can't sit here and honestly say, go to college and then do all these things. I think if you can be disciplined in yourself and give yourself that college education yourself, then I think that's a path worth exploring.
So, if you're gonna do that, if you're gonna go the unconventional route, forego the traditional education, you recommend to, I even recommend you need to have that burning passion for whatever you want to pursue.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And I will say this as a musician, there are so many amazing, talented people out there. And what was frustrating for me was to see some of my peers not doing so well because they weren't investing time in the business side of things, although they had the talent. And that's something that did frustrate me. And um, that wasn't, it's everyone can take their own path, and if you're an artist and you don't want to think about that stuff, that's fine. And I can respect that. I really do. But I think one of the main reasons why I was able to do this for a living was because I understood the business side very well. And I, as much as it's a battle between business and creative, like it's always butting heads. For me, I was always good about compartmentalizing my brain. And so I can kind of switch back and forth pretty well, but I think a lot of people were either more on this side or just more on this side. And so I think it's about being educated about what you want to do, what you want to get into, and seeing if it can help you, make a living. You don't have to get rich from it, but at least surviving, right? Paying your bills and just being able to eat and have, a place to live.
More young people are getting online and content creating. And like you said, the business side of it is always there. But when you're young, you don't really think about that. So, for young creators right now who are just trying to create and share their passion with the world, what are some basic foundation business skills or knowledge they should have?
I think nowadays there are so many tools and articles and things like that that explain how a creator can monetize. There's merchandise, there's YouTube, there's live streaming on Twitch, there's podcasting, there is, what else is there? There's a bunch of stuff. Like if you're a musician, Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Music, those are all places where money kind of like flows through. You can do live shows if you're a comedian, brand deals, working with brands. And so all these things are kind of, I think a lot of people know about this stuff, but it's really understanding the mechanics of it and finding the right partners and the right people to help you get to your goals. And, a lot of that info is kind of already out there. And I think for creators who want to get more serious, I mean, there's a beginning stage of trying to be more creative and finding your voice and just having a lot of fun with it. And that's actually the most important thing. And then if you want to turn it into a business, then you have to start putting on that business hat and then start thinking about this stuff and really kind of like saying, okay, what's the strategy around making sure that I can, have multiple sources of revenue coming in. That's really important and important to think about because to be a full-time creator for many years is not an easy thing to do. In fact, there's not a lot of people, at least in the social media space, it's still pretty new. Like, I started like in the very beginning. And so the ones who have been around have only been around, doing it since 2000. I mean, YouTube was founded in 2005. So this is around 2005, 2006. And so if you kind of look at where they've gone, there's different paths. Like once you hit that later stage, but in the very beginning, it's finding that creativity and then finding out how to monetize that with your audience. At the end of the day, the audience, they're your kind of like your customers. And if you can see them that way, but also see them as just like your subscribers or following or fans, however you want to describe them, your community, that's kind of, you got to kind of like mash all those things together to kind of figure out your strategy for how you want to monetize.
Usually, the people with the finances will be older than you. But when you're young and you're just straight out of high school or college, you don't really know how to negotiate. Did you like study into this or did someone help you along the way that was maybe older?
I had several agent/managers kind of, come in and out of my life in my career while I was on YouTube. For the most part, I handled a lot of things on my own because I just, for me, it was like a trust thing. Because I hear so many stories of artists, especially musicians, getting screwed over by their managers. And that's such a common story I've been hearing for like 15 years. It's always like that. But I will say that, even being a manager, just to kind of flip the question a little bit, like even managers, I feel, they got to make a living too. Let's say you're a creator that generates $100,000 and your manager takes 10% of that. That's $10,000 for doing a lot of work, right? Making sure that the creator, you're happy. And so if you think about it, even if it's 20%, it's $20,000 a year. If your artist is making $100,000, it's not even easy to make $100,000 as a creator, generally speaking. And so it's that as a creator, you have to build a team that you can trust and that can grow with you, but also be sensitive to the fact that they're not making that much, right? And that's why managers and agents, they have multiple clients. So they're working with 10 people, but 10, certain people may feel jealous, like, oh, how come you're spending more time with this person or you're spending more time with this person? There's different resources online too, if you read articles, but I will say that most of the time the articles are not right. The best way to get the right market rate, quote unquote market rate, is to ask your peers. Develop you're not just community of your fans and followers, but develop a community of your peers. And I think nowadays people are a lot more transparent about what they're making. You can also benchmark it with the rates that you're getting paid out on these other platforms. For example, on YouTube, you get about a $2, generally speaking, a $2 CPM, which is per 1,000 views, you're getting $2. And so when you're doing a brand deal, you can look at these brands and say, hey, you got to pay me X CPM, whether it be 2, 3, 5, $50 CPMs, depending on how sticky your audience is. I think it's also important if you do brand deals as a creator to understand that, if you were on the other side spending the money, can your audience actually convert to sales? If you can't convince your fans to buy that lipstick or that t-shirt, then it's almost unfair for the brand to have to spend that money on someone who can't drive sales. And so, that's the tricky thing too, that I think a lot of creators tend to look at things from one side, and not really be, conscious of what the other side is also, how they're, validating their spend, right? And they have to get those metrics and the data, and they'll come up with it on their own as well. And they have their community of different brands that they talk to, like, hey, this creator can draw this much engagement, or this creator doesn't draw this much. It's like the difference between a creator that has 10,000 followers, but they're extremely, just tight with that creator. And then on the other hand, you have someone who has 1 million followers, but they don't really have a great relationship with their followers. And I've seen a lot of these types of relationships between creators and fans that, just they don't have that sort of relationship. So whenever they do a brand deal, the brands usually get pissed off because it's like, you have 1 million followers, but you can only drive 100 people to this website. Whereas this 10,000 person who has a good relationship can draw, a few thousand, right? And so that's really kind of the different perspectives that I think creators tend to overlook, that, can really kind of hurt them in the long run. Because if you want to make it in this industry, you kind of have to think of it, in the long run. You have to develop relationships with your peers and also, these brands as well.
So, as a content creator, you shouldn't really think of yourself as a far off celebrity. You should focus on cultivating the community.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, whenever I talk to creators and ask me advice, I always say, when you talk to brands in general, don't think of it as a brand. Think of them as people, because they are. It's a person that works for a brand. It's the job that they have. And if that person, really likes you and you become friends, and that person hops over to different brands, they're always going to want to help you. And that's kind of the way everything works in life, right? It's about relationships.
Yes.
You hang out with friends and you help your friends out, they help you out. And it's kind of there's always an exchange the closer you get with these people. Right. And so, that's a really important thing, I feel. And that's something that I feel creators sort of don't think about, like I said.
Honing empathy. David, were your parents and loved ones supportive of your career, especially coming from a Korean family? Didn't they try to stop you from pursuing, at that time, would have seemed like a dead end in terms of career trajectory, because YouTube was just so novel?
My parents were pretty chill, actually. They weren't supportive, but they also weren't shutting down my ambitions. In fact, they didn't even actually know that I was pursuing this as hard as I was, because they would always be working. So I would actually be working on music at home. They actually didn't even know about my YouTube until 2 years later. A kid came up to them and told them, hey, I love David's videos. They're like, what videos? And then they found it. And they were like, what the heck? But yeah, I think they were pretty proud when they saw that. They didn't know what it was. They didn't know what I was really doing. But I mean, they know now, but I think they were proud once they found out.
It's great that they weren't super opposed of it, but also you didn't tell them, and they're the closest people in your life. Didn't you feel lonely and very doubtful about is this actually going to work?
I think you always feel that in life, if it's going to work, and there's always doubt that creeps in with everything. Even if you have millions of followers, that's still, you'll still feel that actually. And so that's a feeling that never goes away, but it's about capturing that feeling of, I'm going to make it work no matter what. That's something that you cannot let fleet away from yourself. You have to bring it back every time. It always, like, doubt creeps in, and then the confidence disappears, but you gotta keep fighting it. It's stubbornness. It's grit. It's making sure that you are responsible for the success of yourself. And I think that you have to have that in especially if you want to be in the creative space, because there's just so much work that needs to be done to be successful. Everybody has it, to be honest. It's about, where do you channel that from, right? And it's a lot of rewiring your brain. I don't know if a lot of people spend enough time doing that for themselves, and training, the empathy part, the seeing different perspectives, dealing with your self-doubt. It's not that I don't have self-doubt. Of course I do. Everybody does. But like I said, not settling for that. And there's different ways of training that. Like, I would say that, I mean, in high school, I do contribute a lot of the way that I think, to the fact that I was in wrestling. Actually, I was a wrestler in high school. Ooh. And I actually noticed a lot of YouTubers who are really big actually was also in wrestling too. It's kind of a strange coincidence, but the thing that I learned from wrestling was, when you're going against someone else, you're at the same weight class, so it's very fair. And if you lose, it's purely the fact that, like, you just suck. That's it. It's either you didn't train hard enough, you weren't smart enough, you weren't quick enough, you weren't whatever, right? And the other person just won. And so I think that that sport really makes you look at yourself, and it challenges you to see how far you can go without breaking. And you'll never break. Like, what's the worst that'll happen? Like, well, you'll pass out, but you'll wake back up. I was really into, and I still am, I'm very much into, like, self-improvement, and reading books about that and psychology, because I'm very fascinated with why people are the way they are. And that's a big part of empathy as well. And so for me, that was the self-development sort of, process for me was started pretty early on in high school, actually. I was like a big fan of, like, Tony Robbins, like a lot of these people, and I've read some of their books, and that, I would say that also helped kind of shape me into who I am today. I encourage everyone to do that. I don't know if people spend enough time, like, trying to work on themselves, like, mentally.
I'm also on the same page as you. I'm very interested in psychology and why people are the way they are. And so I think everything starts from within. You need to have that strong foundation and base in order to build on top of that. And so it's great that at such a young age, and wrestling helped too for you, to be able to, hone that grit and not give up.
It's not an easy thing to do, but I think if you can find that spark and try to keep it burning, I think that's the way that you'll get through life in the most difficult times. And I've had difficult times too, plenty of difficult times in my life. But I made it through, and that's what really makes you stronger. So,
is there maybe, like, one hardship that you faced that kind of made you feel really weak inside, but you still managed to climb out of there and be David Choi?
I mean, there were quite a few. I mean, it started off with, just me, and I guess being in high school, just being a shy kid. That's tough for any shy kid. I mean, I had a few friends, but shyness is something that I think people battle a lot, especially at that young age. You can call it anxiety, you can call it, whatever you want. But, like, for me, I had some of that. And then, out of high school, going into my internship at a recording studio, actually pretty close to where I am here in North Hollywood. I had a really difficult time there too, because I didn't really know what I was doing. I was there going up every day. It was unpaid, and I was dealing with racist bosses. I learned a lot. I got a lot of kind of like pent up anger from that, um, but it made me stronger. And that prepared me actually for YouTube, where people can be very nasty at times. The YouTube experience also helped me a lot too, because I was exposed to thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people, and uh, you get all kinds of opinions and feedback and constructive criticism, or just criticism or racism, and you deal with a lot of those things, and that actually helps shape you as a human being as well. And so, those were like big, I would say, chunks of hardships. Um, you know, a battle of, yeah, I think even being Asian American that was like a struggle actually at times. There were times when I would think like, man, if I was white, where would I be? Would I bring more people to shows, or would more people subscribe? And I had those thoughts too. Um, but also there were a lot of blessings in being Asian American, um, that, I was able to kind of gain from as well. Like, college, I would do a lot of college shows too. And I didn't know that every single university in the United States has multiple Asian clubs, like the Vietnamese Student Association, or the, CASA, or Chinese coalition of students. There's like all kinds of things, like all across America. And so, that was like a way for me to go out and play shows as well, besides the ones that I had, planned myself as well. So, there are a lot of benefits too. And so I can't discount that, but those are some of the things that content creators just have to go through. And then even before my new venture here for my tech company, that was a difficult time for me too. Actually, it was one of the most difficult times, because I nearly lost everything. And so that was a very difficult moment for me in the last, it was very recent actually, probably the last, few years after I stopped YouTube. So that was like I had to rediscover myself and kind of, start over essentially, because I'm not a tech person. I was a YouTuber. So that was a difficult moment for me too. But, I know that there will be many more to come, and, but it's more about how do you deal with it, right?
David, you built this amazing career and platform on YouTube. Why did you decide to pivot into building your own app?
I was doing YouTube for a very long time. And I just got kind of tired of the YouTube side of things. Um, it became very monotonous for me. Release an album. I released 5 albums. So release an album, go do a show. And I think a lot of it also was the fact that I had to do a lot of administrative work, like the business side of things,
Mm.
that I talked about earlier. It's something that's important, but it took away from the creativity, and just like I didn't feel inspired. And I didn't really like making videos, to be honest. I liked making music. I'm a musician. I like writing songs, but I didn't really like the video production and editing and uploading and all that stuff. And that was if you do that for enough years, and you start getting tired of it, that starts to stack up. And for me, I just wanted to do something different. I wanted to try something new, but I also wanted to do something that was meaningful, and something that I've always wanted to do, which
Mm.
was start a tech company. And so, so that's what I did. I, I was just, there were so many frustrations that I had as a creator, that were not being addressed by the industry. And that's one of the reasons why, I started this company. And it's not out yet, but we're working really hard, and, yeah, we're pretty excited. So.
Taco sounds like an amazing idea and app that really puts creators first. Tell me more about it and what your mission is.
So essentially, what kind of started this was the fact that, as a creator, I was once, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but I was one of the first creators to be a part of the partner program on YouTube, where you get a percentage of the ad revenue.
Mhm.
And that's one of the reasons why I was able to do what I was able to do, play music for a living all around the world for over 10 years. And so, you know, I was a bit frustrated that these other platforms that are out there um, didn't take care of creators the way that I knew they could. Uh, YouTube is the only platform that compensates creators for their content. No other
Mm.
platform does that. Um, Besides Twitch, if you're a live streamer,
Mhm.
and I think TikTok has a creator fund, but that's
Mhm.
not really built into their platform. It's not in the DNA of TikTok. It's just a thing they just tacked on top, and you don't know when that's going to end. Maybe they won't end it. Hopefully they don't. For us, we feel that everybody who contributes to a platform should be compensated for their work. Uh, Being a musician, when I write a song and I have it up on Spotify or any of these platforms where you can stream music, anytime someone listens, I actually get like a fraction of a penny. That adds up over time, and it's called residual income or royalties. And that's the way that music industry has worked for decades, and that's how the film industry worked. If you get into a movie or a TV show, uh, you get SAG royalties every time the movie gets played on any TV network or cable network. The reason why you get these royalties is because people are still watching it, people are still listening to it, and next to these things are advertisements. And for platforms like Instagram, for example, I love all these platforms. By the way, I just don't love what they don't do sometimes. And for me, the fact that Instagram, owned by Facebook, is making billions of dollars, tens of billions, off of everyone's content without returning a penny back to the creators is wrong. It's been wrong. Um, it makes me mad. And so, we wanted to solve that problem. I was waiting for someone to solve it for over 10 years while I was a YouTuber,
Mm.
because I would always ask these platforms when they're going to start doing that. And they would always say soon. And they never did anything about it. So we're here to change that at Takko. And, um, we want to put creators first and make decisions from the creator perspective before we make decisions based off of just business. Business is important, but if anything, I've learned that the creative process is much more important first and foremost than the business. Creators get taken advantage of a lot. I've seen it, I've experienced it, and so if we can um, really empower creators to essentially do what I was able to do and make a living, doing what I love to do. Then we did our job. Look, I even go as far as to say, if we introduce monetization to the industry and, all these other big platforms, they start paying out creators, and we fail, we did our job. And that's the way I look at it. And so, um, you know, we just want creators to be treated the right way, and that's really important for us.
David, are tacos your favorite food?
I love tacos. Yes, of course.
Is that what inspired the name of your app?
Yes, and it's a fun word, taco, like the way that's spelt with the K's. And we also, we want people to talk about it. So that's kind of a play on that. And
Ah! You have this wonderful idea for taco, but can you walk me through the first steps you took to turn your idea into a reality?
well, you had to start with the idea. That's the first thing. I think the second most important thing is to find the right team, um, who at least can give you some sort of buy-in. Like, hey, I'm down. I'm with you here. I want to advise you. I want to be on your team. And so that for me, that was my co-founder Peter, and co-founder slash CTO. And because I can't build it, I can't actually code. So um, Peter came in, and we work really well together. He's like kind of like my wife or my husband at the company. And so yeah, we always discuss things and just try to figure out strategies and ways that we can build something that's very valuable for people. And so I would say you start with the team, and then the next thing you need, if you don't fund it yourself, you have to find money, you have to find investors. And so for us, we went out and we found some investors. We pitched with, over probably 60 or 70 different investors, and found investors who believed in our vision and our team and the fact that we can execute on something that we understand. And so once you get that, then you start building out your team even more, and you start building, and then you start doing a lot of different things to help support your business and grow. And so that's kind of where we're at right now. And that's like the quick version of how you get to that point.
Just as important as the idea is the team that will work relentlessly to bring your idea to life. And as a founder of Takko, what type of team member are you looking for to build your app with you?
I mean, if I'm being very particular right now, we're looking for engineers. Anyone who comes to work for Takko really understands the creator space and maybe has created things on their own. We want people who are passionate and really understand that we're building something that's bigger than ourselves. And that's a phrase that's commonly thrown around, like, in any business, but, it's something that needs to exist. Someone needs to do it. To be frank, don't trust the big companies to put creators first. I will do that. I have to, because it's my reputation on the line. But as a creator, and so that's something that we want in anyone who wants to join, and help us grow as a company, and so we can impact more people.
How many people are in the team right now?
We have about 12 people right now at our company. And so, yeah, we're just kind of heads down right now, just really building and focusing on making sure that the product is good. I don't know if you've ever taken like coding classes or anything, but it's very complicated. Like, it's like creating magic in a way, like just through, the computer. And so it's like writing a song, but writing something that actually people can use. And even Zoom that we're on right now, like a whole team, a whole village had to code throughout all the hours of the night just to allow us to communicate remotely like this. I think engineers don't get enough credit sometimes with a lot of these tech companies, because they are really the ones who have to clean up all the bugs. There's always bugs all the time, and it's like, one of the ways that one of our engineers described it as is like, I'm washing all the dishes. When I feel like I'm done, there's a new dirty dish that just gets passed around here, and like, oh my gosh, I got to clean this. And then there's another dirty one, and then you wipe the thing clean, and then someone throws spaghetti on that clean dish. So it's constantly like that. That's what engineers have to deal with, and they're sitting in front of that computer, working on those things. So that's why I really have a lot of respect for them.
Shout out to all the engineers out there. Tell me about some mistakes you made along the way and that you can advise our audience to avoid as fellow entrepreneurs building their company.
Mistakes. I didn't really make any mistakes. No, just kidding.
Ooh.
I would say that one thing that keeps people from growing and becoming better is the ego. The ego is something that's why I'm like really into self-development. It's like, we all need to find any way possible to smash your ego when you need to. There are times when you can like let it show a little bit, but most of the time you have to kill it. Because if you don't take in information from people and constructive criticism and feedback, and you don't apply it, at least if you don't have to apply it, but you should at least listen. If you can't do that, you'll always be someone that, has not reached their maximum potential as a human being, in every sense. It's spiritually, physically, emotionally, mentally, like all these things are very important, and mistakes come because we don't take those pieces of advice. And there's so much advice, there's so much experiences that other people have documented on the internet. And if we can't learn from them, then we just have to make those mistakes ourselves and learn the hard way. And a lot of things in life, we do have to make those mistakes to learn.
That's imperative beyond entrepreneurship, like, and just in life too.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's different than confidence too. Like confidence is believing in yourself and knowing that you will make these mistakes, but you will come out stronger. You know, the ego is like, no, I'm always right.
Mm.
I don't need to hear your advice because I already know. I've already experienced it. The thing is, those are the people that people don't like working with. Those are the people that will, just not get as far as they can. And they'll make mistakes and they'll lose people along the way. Um, you can have confidence. You can be that go-getter. You can have that energy. But even those people who are really smart, they will at the least, hear what people have to say and really think about it. Like, is this something I can apply or not?
So, who are you turning to and receiving some comments or feedback in terms of developing Takko?
So we have a variety of people. Like we have creators that we speak to in regards to the product. We talk to our advisors. We talk to our friends. Talk to our investors. And some of it is just we kind of like um, look. We ask ourselves just because we've been in this industry for a while, and so it's a balance of all of those things.
And for like your close friends or just your acquaintances around you, are they supportive of you becoming a founder of an app?
Some people don't really know what we're doing because we haven't really released anything, but I've also seen people who were very supportive of my career early on as a musician who, when I sort of entered their space, I did see some sort of maybe fear on their part, or I don't know what it is, maybe like, oh, why are you entering my space kind of sort of feeling. And that, I mean, that's something that I did expect to happen. But that also shows kind of how people are. And I don't take it like offensively or anything. I'm just like, oh, I guess that's what type of person they were all along. When you're a musician and you're kind of like, quote unquote famous or whatever, not that I see myself that way, but like, people will treat you differently, and you just want to be treated like a normal person. I think sometimes people are a little bit hesitant to try to understand you because there's like, they are it what it reveals for me sometimes is the other person's insecurity. Like don't put me on a pedestal. I'm just like you, dude. I'm just doing music, and I happen to have people who watch my videos. That's it. Like, that's the only way I see it. But sometimes you can see that uncomfortable feeling that the other person has. So I don't blame them for that, but I just see them more of like, okay, let me just try to connect with you. You learn so much about people, in general. But going back to the business thing, I think, for the people who maybe aren't as supportive as they used to be, I'm okay with that. For me, it doesn't really, you know, stop me from wanting to accomplish what I want to accomplish. So
And what you're trying to accomplish is, like you said, much bigger than all of us. So it'll reap the rewards and it will definitely impact many in a positive way.
I just want to see, those stories that I was able to tell Chad Hurley. Like a month ago, I had a call with Chad Hurley, from the co-founder of YouTube. And I told him, I was like, hey, thank you, for allowing me to travel around the world playing music for a living for over 10 years of my life. And I got to meet amazing people and go to amazing places. And he was just like, thank you. How do you respond to that, right? How does he respond to that? And so I think I just wanted to tell him, and that was a good feeling for me. And if I can do that for other people and allow them to really enjoy what they do and get paid for it, that's an amazing thing for them, right? Like I would love that.
As a fellow content creator yourself, and now as an entrepreneur who is building an app empowering content creation, what are some tips you have for those who want to build a digital media platform?
You just have to do it. I think what keeps people from doing anything is fear. And that's something, like I said, self-development can help you do. Like, go work out, like make yourself feel better and see the growth that you can, the potential that you have. And if you can see that in yourself, use that energy and channel that to accomplish other things that you say you want to do. So it's really a mental thing, really, more than anything else. You work out your body to get physically strong. You have to work out your mind in order to get yourself to a place where you can snap out or snap into things that you need to access in your brain so that you can keep moving. If it's like you're in the forest and there's a bear chasing you, you're going to snap into that moment naturally, right? How do you get into that natural state? Maybe not like the fear state, but the state of I'm going to make it work quickly. With the snap of a finger, can you get there? And if you can get there and trigger that within yourself, that's what's going to make you start moving. If you can get yourself to that place mentally and you start taking action and you start learning and being open and approaching things from a place of like humbleness and that you don't know, but like absorbing as much as you can and then taking action from there, that's how you start anything. And there's enough knowledge and expertise in blueprints out there for anything you want to do in life that you can literally accomplish anything you want. I really do believe that. You got to get yourself to that place first.
Yes. I love how you said you have to work out your mind too. It's very true.
Yeah, it's important.
Pursuing your career in YouTube and traveling the world on tours all in your 20s was probably not a conventional lifestyle. Did you have time to date?
Yeah, I did. I dated a lot. Yeah.
Dude, what are some qualities that are vital for a healthy romantic relationship?
I think it really depends on your age. I think a healthy relationship, I think being open-minded is good. I mean, people have so many different preferences, right? For me, a healthy relationship is one where you're growing from each other. I think that's one of the most important things. If you can't grow from each other, then I think the relationship may not work out. That's just my opinion. I may be wrong. But that's something that's been important for me. If that person doesn't make you better, if they make you worse, if they make you more whatever, more paranoid, more anxious, more stressed, more anything, those things will always happen, but it's how do you improve on that? Like, can you improve on that? Can you fix it and find a solution quickly? Well, it doesn't have to be quickly, but quick enough. But like, can you get past those things and then resolve it and then grow from that? That's a healthy relationship. If it's lingering, and that this type of relationship happens a lot in relationships that are not very healthy, it usually doesn't end up in the right place. And I've seen that a lot. I have personally experienced things like that, both from my side and also from the other side as well. From my experiences, the 20s, for the most part, I think it is for exploration, I guess you could say, going on dates. It's really about figuring out what you want and what you don't want. I tell girls, to date someone that maybe it's just within my circles, but you have to date one bad boy, because you learn what you really don't want and what's not healthy. Because what ends up happening if you don't, then you'll see those types of people and be like, oh, I wonder what it's like. So it depends on the phase in your life. I'm a pretty like open-minded person, so if people need to figure out like like how they communicate, or even as like crazy as like how they are in an intimate setting, like maybe some people need to figure that out for themselves if that's what's important to them. And so that's sort of kind of like what the 20s are about. I think what ends up happening, and I think this is different based off of what country you're in, and also I can get very like granular in what area you live in. In Los Angeles, a lot of people tend to kind of settle down a little bit later. So there's a lot of options here too, for both guys and girls or whatever, you're into. And so like uh, for Los Angeles, for LA, I would say that it's a little bit hard to find people who are more serious. In maybe in the more Midwestern parts of America, they are more likely to settle down at an earlier age. Yeah, and I do believe too that there are people who are better suited for certain people, like certain personality types work better for others. Some personalities will just clash naturally. It's either, I think the best fits are either ones that are complementary, like you balance each other out, or the next best would be that people who are similar, so they think similar.
With COVID, what are you like eating on the daily these days?
Well, at Takko, we actually provide lunch twice a week. You know, it's really bad. And I talked about self-improvement, and on the physical front, I've not been great about it. But I really like fast food. It's really bad for me. I know that. I don't want anyone to follow my footsteps with that, but I really love fast food. I probably eat it like, a couple times a week.
What's your favorite?
I like In and Out.
Yeah.
I love Taco Bell. I like um Wiener Schnitzel. I like Carl's Jr. I like Popeyes. I like all of them. It's really bad.
Nice. You mentioned that, you enjoy, self-development and working out your mind. What are some habits you've developed to take care of your own personal health?
I think one exercise I always do for myself is kind of like putting myself in other people's positions.
I do that too.
Yeah, no, it's a great exercise because you start to think and try to understand like their perspective. What would you do in their situation? And that even works with, different positions within a company. It's like, oh, if I was this person or in this position, how would I do things differently knowing what I know now? And I think that's an important sort of exercise to do.
That's so good. Especially now that you're leading a team and you're building this app, what a great quality to have and exercise to continue to pursue.
I try to encourage other people to do that too, because it's not, life is not all about you. It's good to understand that.
Especially these days, I feel like more people are inclined to think about themselves first, which is why there's just so much more hate. But if we take a step back and think about the other person's perspective, or like maybe why they're sending you that hate comment, or why your friend is upset at you, like think about what's going on in their life. It helps you to like kind of hone your heart too.
It's like also when I'm much better last few years. When I drive, I used to get really pissed off at a lot of, like, I would have road rage. What I realized is like when someone makes a mistake, I was like, I've done that too. So just like whatever, right? Like I don't even honk anymore if someone's at a green light and they're waiting still. I really don't even honk. I'm like, it'll go, and it does. They always do. Like, and then I wait like a few seconds. And I'm like, should I do it? And then they just end up going, so I don't have to even do it. And so it's even that sort of like discipline within myself to not react to those things, because it's like, why am I raising my blood pressure just because someone made like didn't signal or something? It's like I've done that too. It's just like a waste of energy, bad energy.
We need more drivers like you, David. I'm scared of driving, so I don't really drive often. Like I can't get on a freeway without someone next to me because I'm just so scared about other drivers. But if everyone was like you, I would be more inclined to driving.
Well, hopefully someday people will be nicer.
David, do you think that you've discovered what you truly love to do?
It's a good question. I never got that before. I I do feel that what I'm doing right now is what I'm meant to do right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do. And that could change in the future. And I'll learn that later in life, right? We'll see. But I do feel right now very strongly that this is what I'm supposed to do.
I'm glad. But for those who, may be feeling lost or stuck, what would you like to tell them?
I would say to just keep moving forward in whatever capacity you can. I think the first thing people would maybe think of is like financially, if I'm not doing well. Sometimes it's not something you can really control. But one thing you can control is your health. You can work out, you can see improvement, you can feel the improvement. And if you can do that within yourself, and you could see that potential in yourself, then I think that can apply to other things. It'll just naturally happen mentally. And for me, that I think when I have those moments in life, I start with the things I can actually control.
David, what's your life mission?
My life mission is to bring a lot of value to people and just to really serve people. And I like to see people grow. I like to see people improve. I like to help people to get to their goals. It does frustrate me when people don't find that spark and they continue on. But what I've learned is that everyone is on their own path, and if I could just do that for myself, or the people who care to take that advice or whatever, then that's enough. I think when I was younger, I definitely had more of like, I want to fix everyone kind of mentality. But that's not really, it doesn't work. You can only do so much, but I think, I want to just help as many people as I possibly can.
What 3 advice would you go back and tell David Choi in his 20s?
I would say, just keep going, keep the faith, keep, trust your intuition. I think that's really big. And then I would say, when multiple people advise you about the same thing, listen to them.
Was there a time where you chose not to listen?
A couple times in my life. And so those were the harder lessons I had to learn on my own. It's like this. It's, hey, don't date that person. That's not the one that's not my experience, but actually, did I have that? I think I did have that experience once. It's hard. It's the hardest thing to do, because you're like, no, I'm right. Like I can make it better. I can make this work. Maybe you can't see it, but I can make it work. And sometimes I think other people in certain times in life, like other people are generally going to be right.
David, what does success mean to you?
Success for me means creating as much impact and value to people in the world. That's the biggest marker of success for me.
You've started off as a creator and you've inspired Asian Americans, just creators, just everyone in the world out there. Now you've come full circle as an entrepreneur, as a leader who's trying to give back. And like you said, and what your definition of success is to impact as many lives as you can. It's awesome that as a fellow creator yourself, you're doing this for the rest of the community. Keep going, David. You're really inspiring all of us.
Thank you. Appreciate that. You too. Continue on to do what you're doing. And I look forward to seeing the success that you're going to have as well.
Thank you so much, David, for your time today. What are you going to be doing after this?
I'm going to go home and then I'm going to work.
More on a Saturday?
So much to do. I have so much to do.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, get some yummy fast food first.
Is this done? Are we done?
Yeah, we're done. Cut. Bye, David.
Bye.
Who's My Way will we explore next? Please like, subscribe, and share, and let's go find out together.